Hello, and thank you for purchasing Demi Deck. First of all, I'd like to tell you why I called it Demi Deck. Well, the medieval Latin for half is demidus, and the French for half is demi. And my deck breaks in half, so I thought I'd call it Demi Deck. Not Demi Deck, because that's a bit too French, but Demi Deck. So that's what I called it. So I'd like to explain what you're going to listen to and view in the rest of this download. You're going to see an introduction on how I came up with this trick, and see some prototypes. You're going to see what's in the box, and I'll explain how it works, the gimmick. You'll see a few routines or the handlings, possibly 2 or 3 of them at least. And you'll see a bonus section with some hints and tips on how to make some extra features on your box more exciting, more believable, okay? So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you again for purchasing this. I'm really excited because it's been on my personal shelf for many, many years, and I'm glad it's finally into your hands, so thank you. So a bit about the history of this effect. I first created this way back in 2002, I believe, according to a 2003 video footage I found in my collection, which I made with a Sony Clé Palm PDA, remember those? I had one, they were brilliant. 2002, and it started off with a cardboard version which I made with a Waddington's card case, which is Waddington's is a UK brand of playing cards. But obviously, because the card case was made of cardboard, it was very flimsy, and I used a rope magnet on the side to hold it together. But I just did it to test it worked, and it did work. So then on to stage 2, I made a balsa wood version, as a balsa wood, which is a very soft but strong wood at the same time. And it was much more sturdy, and it worked very, very well. After that, I decided to try and get it made in wood. And the first one on the table here, this was made by Tenyo, which is quite a lovely looking one, and a metal blade as well. But at the time, I used some rubber and elastic, and it perished, so we passed on that. Then we moved on to this one, which I believe was made by Colin Rose. Again, it's very just crude version, but it was just to see that it worked. And Colin really liked to make this for me, but he realized that it might become popular, and the demand for making lots of them might increase, because he's a one-man band. He wouldn't be able to carry on making them, because obviously the demand might be too much. That was his anticipation. Then we moved on to another version, which it fits into this gap, which I don't have, which was, it looks like a leather version, but it was made out of a metal frame with a leather coating on the side, but that didn't work out too well. And then finally, the good guys at Murphy's decided to take it on for me, and we came up with another version, which is this one here, before the final version, which looks more organic, more like a leather case, because these do look a bit proppy-ish, because they're like wooden boxes, but the final version, which you have in your hands, looks more like a leather case. Yes, they're very old, but I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 versions of it. So 6 or 7 versions, testing it out over the years. What you have in your hand I think is the best version of it so far, and we'll talk through it now about what you get in the box. So let me talk about what you get in the box. You look down. This is a nice, beautiful packaging made by Murphy's, which I absolutely love. Anyway, when you open it up inside, you'll have your, obviously, download code on the side, which you obviously know because you're watching the video. And inside is your special case. Now I want to talk about this, really. This is my last final sample that I've been using for the last 6 months. Your version will look much better, obviously, because it's brand new and it's been finished much better, but it does work, so I'm using this to explain to you how it works.
We're gonna make a quick little stop right here. As you may have heard, Angelo did mention that he's using an early version of a prototype, which is why we're going to show you what yours actually looks like. Now, there's only a brief little difference in between this one and the one that Angelo is showing you, and that is when you let it fall like this, you'll notice that it has some wings or some sort of blockers. You'll have it on that little insert on both sides. The reason he decided to add this is so that you don't see the white edges or the white side of the deck when this is open. Because it's black, it's going to be even more hidden and even harder for them to even catch a glimpse of anything. Because you are doing this pretty much always, it's going to be in the shadow. Having that black there instead of the white deck is obviously much more preferable. Now, as well as this having been updated, you're also getting your gimmick cards, and we're going to go over this routine later on. You should have 2 of these cards inside, and it's just a mismade Queen of Hearts. Now, that's pretty much it. Let's get back to Angelo.
So when you open the case, you might accidentally do this, like that, and the blade falls out as well, because that's what happens. That's the secret. And it needs to be loose like that, because you need gravity to hold it out, to hold it in and to fall down naturally. So let me walk you through. On the back there is a slot here, a slit, but that's going to be covered with your fingertips, because you need to hold the box somewhere, and it's never seen at any moment because it's covered with your fingertips. And even if they do see it, it doesn't telegraph the method, because it could just be construction to do with the box, the leather, etc. Oh, by the way, this is not real leather for you vegan guys out there. It's fake leather, so that should be good for you. So yes, this comes out the back, like so. Over at the back end is a flap held on with magnets. You probably didn't discover that accidentally, or you probably did if you watched the video. Held on with magnets, which you can choose to show or not show in your performance.
The back of your Demi Deck has a little door to expose a fake deck. You already know this. We just want to let you know, if you're using a deck of cards that is a little bit older, feel free to take a pencil and just put a couple extra lines. Your gimmick already has lines on it, but you can take a pencil and put extra lines if for some reason this looks way newer than the actual deck that you're using. Again, it won't matter whether you put those little lines there, because you can take any eraser and just erase it away, and then it'll go back to your new deck if you ever switch it back to use a new deck. Now, you may have noticed that to open this back door, you'll see that the actual opening and the rest of the Demi Deck is very flush. That is so that you don't accidentally open it. If you want to very easily open it, so you don't have to struggle to open it, all you have to do is put pressure on the bottom part of the Demi Deck. That's where it opens. You just put a little pressure there, and all that does is it pushes the door slightly up and above the Demi Deck. So I push up slightly, and then you'll see that it'll automatically open. It's actually very easy to open. All you do is push up as you open, and you'll see you can do that in just one single motion. All I'm doing is I'm putting more pressure on the bottom than I am at the top. That's causing, if you were to imagine this piece here, once I push it up, right there, it would be flush. When I push it up, that little piece kind of goes up ever so slightly, and then that's what your thumb can pick up and open. So there you go, just like that.
You have a magnetic flap here, like so. Sometimes I like to do this, which is quite fun. Anyway, okay. And then the most important part is this flap that comes down here. That's where the deck is. You'll notice that the back end is stiff. This is loose fabric, but this is stiff. And you'll notice also that this end here is parallel with the front end of the deck. So no matter what angle it's at, you see this back piece here, it's always parallel with the front, because when the deck goes inside, you don't want the deck tipping backwards, because then your seat tip inwards and you'll know it's gone downwards. So this little end here keeps the front end of the deck flush, so it always looks straight, even if it's bent downwards. All right. The other part of the box is this flap here, which comes down. What's the purpose of this? Well, one of the routines involves it being filmed from the front, or being performed from the front, should I say. And when you put the blade in, it pushes down on the flap, which creates a bottom to the box. Can you see that? Because every box has a bottom. Because if that wasn't there, it would kind of look like that. Can you see how that looks quite odd? There's no bottom to the box. And I had that on some of my earlier prototypes, but I said, no, this needs to be here, this flap, because it's very, very vital. Even though some people might not notice it at first, I think it needs to be there, so you see the bottom of the box. So when you put the blade in, you'll see there's 2 slots. There's one that goes completely all the way across. That's where it splits, and there's a narrow slot, because obviously it doesn't go all the way across. Okay, see that? The slot near yourself is where you put the blade in. If you put it through there, you can't because that's where it splits. So put it in the slot nearest yourself. And then that's where it goes, okay? Also, please don't be heavy-handed with the hinge. Don't, pull and twist it. Just let it do what it has to do, but don't twist it, etc. All right? So that's the essential working of the box. Now let's go into the handling. Okay, first of all, I'd like to show you what it looks like and then explain how to do this particular handling. This version, I talk about the magician sawing the spectator in half and how I like to create big illusions and bring down to a small scale. So what I do is I put the deck of cards inside like so, close the flap, show it all around. Then I take my metal blade, like so. Ask the spectator to push down on this, and they can't push down obviously because the deck is in the way. And so, but if I click my fingers, I can push down on the blade like so, and I can part the deck. I can open it all the way around, show the other side, put it back, close, take the blade out, and now take the cards out, and all the cards are fine. So that's version 1. That's a good straight-on handling. So let me explain it. You can start with the deck in the case, or you can start with it separate. It's up to you, but we'll talk about that more later because there's some various points I need to make. The deck of cards can go inside. You close the flap like so. Now I take the blade and I put it just in the slots, but I just push it on top of the deck. Not all the way through, obviously, because it can't go through. And then I make sure I press on the bottom. I can show both sides. It should stay in. The gripness of the lever holds it together. Okay. Then I ask the spectator to try and push it through. Obviously, they can't push it through because the deck is in the way. But also, more importantly, I'm pressing with my fingers here, so they can't push it open. If I held it there, they could accidentally do this. See that? So you don't want to do that. You want to press very hard. So they try and push, which helps sell the effect as well because it seems impossible, right? Once they've done that, established it can't go through. I transfer it to my left hand, like if you're a dealing grip, I have it in my left hand. If you're right-handed, that is, you have it in your left hand. And I hold it at the fingertips like so. See that? Don't want it deep in my hand because then there's no room for it to fall down if it's deep in my hand. It's got to be high up on the fingers because you want it to drop like that. Okay? So high up in the fingers so it can drop down, not low down. So I like to, if you look at it from above, it's kind of framed, even the heel of my hand, it frames all the sides of the case. All right? So once again, I've done this. I put it straight into this hand. And what I'm doing now is I'm kind of gripping the sides because if I let go, if I let go like this, it'll fall down. So to prevent that falling down prematurely, I'm kind of gripping the edges. See this edges here? I'm gripping the edges with my side of my fingers and thumb. So I'm ready to let it drop, but I'm not going to let it drop straight away. Make sure when you hold the case that you're not too high up. Okay, it needs to be quite low down, almost like belly button to belly button. And that's based on if your spectators are standing above you. You want them to look across it, kind of down, and not really under it. This is something you need to practice in the mirror to get the right angle. Anyhow, when you're ready to push down the blade, what I do is I click my fingers as a bit of misdirection. And as I click my fingers, that's when I allow it to drop. Did you hear that? I'll do it again. And from the side, I let it drop. Be careful not to do this. Okay, that will give it away. Just be very subtle about it and practice. Again. And I push straight down. You can go slow, you can go fast, whatever you want, just push straight down. Sometimes you can even do it at the same time. Okay? Push down at the same time. And that would look like this. Okay? Or you can do it separate. I choose to do it separate, like that, and then I push down. Okay, so you push the blade down. Now you've got to be careful with your angles if you're straight on, but we'll talk about angles later because that's very important. But in this scenario, don't do this, although you're covered at the side a little bit. This side's a bit better with your fingers, but this side's a bit of your bad angle. But keep it straight on, okay? Then what you're going to do is open up the back. But don't go all the way there because you're missing a nice, subtlety. The subtlety is for showing the bottom bar here at the bottom. And the best distance to open it so that the spectator has a good chance of seeing that bottom bar of the box is, you see this point here of the box? Imagine a straight line going to this arrow, the flap. This should point straight to the corner there. Then you know that's the best distance to go. If you're a bit there, that's not the ideal distance. You see that? It's not pointing there. If you're a bit there, that's probably a bit too much. So just imagine this is like an arrow pointing straight to this corner here. That's the best distance. So pause at that moment for a bit, okay, to let them register that section, and then move over to here, like so. If you want to, you don't have to. This is entirely optional. You can open up the flap. I like to do so, but you don't have to because nobody knows it's there. So if you want to open up the flap, like so, and then close it and swing it back. But before you swing it back, okay, be wary of this. Don't move it too much. Always keep this motionless, this part still. Don't twist it around like that. Only this moves. This part stays still, okay? Don't twist it. This stays absolutely still. It's this part that moves. Then you move it backwards, locks into position, and as you lift up the blade, your little finger here pushes up the box. I'll do that again, like so. So from the front, my little finger pushes it up, like so. And then I just grip from the bottom, turn to the side, and I kind of do it deliberately like this so they can see there's nothing under it. I open up the flap and pull out the decks and let them examine it if they want to. Pull out the deck, should I say.
There's a couple of things that we want to make sure we're not doing in order for the illusion to look its best. And it's really, really simple if we just remember a couple things. And those things are keeping the Demi Deck, the word I would use would be isolated in space. So it does not move from the specific location at which it's at. And let me show you what I mean. So this is what not to do. So you do not want to bring Demi Deck down into the hand. So this is no good if you bring Demi Deck down, because that really should not happen if we were actually doing what we're saying we're doing. And the other thing we shouldn't do is have this come up by pushing up with our palm. So as you can see here, I'm just dropping it, and then here I'm pushing it up with my palm. We don't want to do that. What you want to do is look at the angle, look at where Demi Deck is in space. So right now, if it's, and I'll show you from this angle, right now you can see the line is here. This is the location where it's at right now. What you want to do is use your pinky to bring the top up into Demi Deck without it shifting or moving, because that is a telltale giveaway of how the method might work. So again, we're keeping it exactly where it's at and we're bringing it up with the pinky. We're not using the hand, because if we use the hand, you can see the thumb kind of crunches up, and again, that shouldn't happen. So what you want to do is remember, this is going to stay isolated in space. It's not going to move. The only thing that will move up is this with the pinky. Now, if you don't want to use your pinky to do that, is it really, really simple. You may have seen another way that you could do this is just come underneath and grab as you turn it. But notice that the Demi Deck is staying isolated specifically in that space, right? So I'm not moving it down, because this is what the audience is aware of, this top portion of Demi Deck. So it's going to stay there. If it goes down, it's weird. It's like, why is it staying down? So you're going to push up as you can turn around if you want to show the other side. But again, the beautiful thing is that you're keeping Demi Deck isolated in space. So it stays there as you turn it around. I just want to show you the difference. So look at this. It looks like I'm closing something rather than actually just showing you what it is, right? It's a minute little difference, but it's actually really, really important. Remember, the more little details we take care of in our magic, the better and overall more magical and the bigger or better the illusion is going to look. So remember, keep Demi Deck specifically exactly where it is. Do not push it up with your palm. There's a lot of tension and a lot of movement in the hand, and do not also just let it fall, because that just wouldn't happen. So remember, we just want to very slowly lift it up, or you want to bring it up. The key thing to remember is keeping Demi Deck isolated in space.
So that's the version 1. This is the original handling I came up with. And I haven't mentioned, and I'll do it here now, you'll see that when this tips downwards, the deck stays parallel. Can you see that? This is what I was talking about earlier. The deck is parallel. See that? Even if you've got the flap on or off, you can't really tell that it's tipping backwards. Because obviously in reality, if it was to tip backwards, it would go back like this, and the top end of the deck would go inwards and you see it. But that's what prevents it from happening, that little flap. So this particular handling is the version 1. It's the original handling I did. It's best suited if you want to do it on social media, or on television or social media or on any other video platform. It's also good one-on-one with spectators. I'm going to show you some additional handlings which is more angle friendly and a different style of doing it. And we're going to version 2 now. So this is a second handling, which is quite more organic because it doesn't use the metal blade. So if you don't like to use the metal blade, you can do this version as well. And the angles are even better. So it looks like this. First I perform it, then I explain it. So I show the deck of cards. Okay. Put them back in the box. Close the flap. And I'll talk about magicians cutting cards. When magicians cut the cards, they take it like this and they cut and complete the deck. I do it a different way. I click my fingers and I do that. And I close it like so and take the cards out. All right? So let me explain to you how it works. So you have the deck of cards in the case, all right? You need to have the hinge towards the spectator because that's going to go like this. It will not work like this, all right? Don't do that. It's got to be hinged towards the spectator, all right? So what's going to happen is I'm holding it in my left hand. My little finger here is supporting the flap. Can you see that? Supporting the flap, all right? I don't want it all the way over there because that's a bit too much. It just needs to be in this section here and also covered with my fingers because I don't want to see too much going on. So I'm going to go like this and I'm going to split the deck like that. But what's going to happen, it's going to happen almost immediately. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do this, drop, and then open. I don't want you to do that. I kind of want you to do it at the same time, kind of like this. And there's a reason why, because it's kind of like the retention of image, that there's nothing under here. So the quicker that you split it while they've seen nothing under there, the more deceptive it is, because, hold on, let's get more comfortable. Okay. Because if you do this, you see the difference there. It's hard to explain. If they've seen nothing underneath here, and then it's all covered up for quite a while, and then you split it. But if you do this, it's kind of more instantaneous and more deceptive. So once you've done that straight away, you'll notice this time, before I told you to always keep this still and move this section, this is the difference, is both halves are moving at the same time and towards one another. So the whole deck moves, okay? But from this angle, okay, you can see that. Also, be careful here. You don't want to flash this underneath here. You've got to practice in the front of the mirror. I can't stress that enough. Practice in front of the mirror first, then come back to this, all right? So you want to cover up with your fingertips and open up like that. Once you're opened, you can be a bit more relaxed. But it's the initial movement that you want to cover up this section here, all right? Be careful of the windows. Be careful of windows between your fingers. I find that it's best for the fingertips to overlap slightly. Only to do the move. Once you've done the move, that's it, you can let go, all right? Because you might think you're covered, but you might see that little window. So anyway, you're doing this, and now I use my little finger here underneath to grip that bit there. See there? Just to hold it in position, because it might start to swing about a bit. So to keep it steady, I just use my little finger to grip it. And then I can open up the flap to show. And then I can move more around. The angle's a bit much better like this. For some reason, it's much better. And then when I want to close, instead of bringing this backwards, all right, which is like the old-fashioned way, you just reverse the action, so both halves move towards one another. Now the angles are important here. You don't want to tip it too forward, because then you're going to flash the top part here. All right, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go too high, because then they might see underneath here as well. So again, prepare your fingers, prepare your fingertips, cover your fingertips like so, and close. Right? Be careful, okay? Again, don't do this, because then you might flash it. It's got to be kind of parallel to the ground. Don't tip it towards them. It's got to be parallel to the ground. Practice in front of the mirror. So close. Once you've closed, there's two ways to do this. You can either use your little fingertip to push up to close it, okay? But you don't want to kind of do this, because they might see it. You want to make sure all your fingers are covered and do that. But to prevent them seeing this knuckle going back, this knuckle here going up and down, which might be a telltale, what I tend to do now is, once I've closed it, I tip it forward slightly, not too much, just forward slightly, because that means I've got more cover to push it in, right? So from the side, I push it in like that. I've got a bit more cover. So once I've closed it, once I know it's together, I can tip forward slightly, then use my fingertip to push it in. And then once I know it's in, I immediately grip it, okay, like so, take the cards out and let them examine it. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about angles with this, because there's another move you can do. It's a bit more advanced, but it's your choice entirely if you want to do it. You've done this move, okay? All right. Now another way of showing the angles even better than they already are is to allow everything to collapse onto your fingers like that. Okay, so you see that? I'm glad it collapse onto my fingers. But obviously you can see this. So what you need to do, you need to tip it like this. So they basically see everything edge on. Okay, so you're kind of raising it a bit up higher. And you open up the flap, and you can see now the box hits the edge of this. It can't go anymore. So that's where you stop. So now if I'm holding it like this, the angles are excellent now. If I tip it around like this, you can see on all sides, I'm covered up here with the heel of my hand. I'm covered up here. This section covers up this bit here. The flap has some cover as well. And I'm shown all around. And when I lower it, obviously if I lower it, you're going to see this. So as I lower the case, I bring this downwards. It's kind of you do it at the same time. Do you see that? I close the flap. And as I bring it down, I'm kind of compensating and bringing the cards down. This is a more advanced move. You see that? So I'm in this position, showing around. And then when I come downwards, I do that. And then that's when I immediately close again, push it in. So that's an advanced move. You can choose whether to do that or not. The angles in general are pretty good like this, even if you don't choose to do this tipping down motion, looking around. Because again, my heel of my hand is covering here, and my fingers are masking this section. So if you've got if you've got an audience in front of you, this is the best handling to do, because your angles are much, much better. All right? If you're just doing one-on-one, you probably prefer to do this straight-on version. But this is good for a large group. So when I've shown some magicians this, and afterwards they've seen the secret, they were actually quite impressed that the angles were so forgiving, because they expected it to be quite tight on. But when I said, no, actually, you know, so much cover on the sides, they were quite impressed with that. So this is the second handling. Now I'm going to show you a third handling, which kind of combines the two. So this third handling is a combination of the first and second. The first handling has the blade, the second handling has the double pivot, and this is a combination of the two. And this is what it looks like. So here's the case, the card's inside, I take the blade, I put it on top, the spectator tries to push it in, but obviously they can't. I click my fingers, push the blade down, then I open up the box like this, like so. Then I close the box, turn it around, take the blade out, and take the cards out. This is what you do. Put the cards back inside. So put the blade in, like so. obviously there's 2 slots here. Don't put it in the slots nearest the spectator because that's where it splits open. Just put it in the slot closest towards you. Okay. Now you're going to do it as if you were doing the first version. Let it drop down, push the blade in, okay? And now the blade is in, I'm going to pivot to the front and open it. But obviously if I pivot to the front, they're going to see this. So I make sure that I'm masking this side with my fingertips, okay? Because it's going to flash this otherwise. So from here, I put my fingers to the side, and then I pivot it like this, all right? Do it again. Pivot. Okay, one more time. From the front view, put my fingers on the side to mask this side. Turn everything to face forwards, and then do the double pivot move, like so. And then you're back into the second handling. Open up the flap, and then to put it back to square one, I again cover my fingertips here, close like this, and while they're still covered, I turn to face that way, okay? Because obviously if I move the blade now, I can't, because as soon as I let go, you're going to see this. So in order to compensate that, I have to turn everything while they're still covered to face forwards, and now I can take the blade out as my little finger pushes upwards. All right, one more time. Blade goes in, goes down, face forward, do the double pivot, open up the flap, close, face forward, and take this out, like so. This is a third version. You don't have to do it this way, but obviously that's another version you can do. In they go. So here is a fun routine you can do, which utilizes the cutting the deck in half idea. So you've seen some handlings, but this is a routine. So inside my box case, should I say, is this deck of cards, like so. What I'm going to do, I'll show the cards like this. I ask the spectator to choose a card, so I go through the cards like so, and ask the spectator to say stop. Stop. They say stop. They have a look at a card there and they remember it. In this case, it's the Jack of Clubs. I go like this. Okay. What we're going to do, we're going to lose the Jack of Clubs in the middle of the pack like so. And we put the cards into the case. We do the cutting the deck in half, which any of the methods you choose to use. I'm going to do this version like so. Click my fingers, like so. And then when I take the cards out, say we cut the deck in half, and what was your card? They said the Jack of Clubs. So what we do is spread through. We look for the Jack of Clubs. It's nowhere except in the middle, but their card has been cut in half, and there's no other Jack of Clubs. So let me explain to you how that routine works. What you need is a duplicate of one of the cards in your deck. So I have a Jack of Clubs here, and I have another Jack of Clubs, and that duplicate I've cut in half, just with a pair of scissors, okay, like so. You also need any card on top with some double-sided tape, okay? So just put a little bit of double-sided tape on top. It mustn't be too sticky, so just do that a few times, etc. To set up, you put the loose pieces anywhere near a few of the bottom cards in the deck. Doesn't matter where, just as long as it's near the bottom. Try and position it so it's like a whole card, just so it's a bit more neat. And then put a few cards on top, 2, 3 or 4, it doesn't matter, just as long as it's near at the bottom. And just keep it nice and flush. The fourth card, the Jack of Clubs, I put 5th from the bottom, 5th from the top, should I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the sticky card is on top. Because you're going to force the Jack of Clubs and going to transfer the Jack of Clubs to the top of this, so it sticks to it, so when you spread through, you can't find it because it's stuck behind the 3. So then, I take the deck out. I'm going to put it in the case first. Don't apply too much pressure there because it might stick, but if it does, you just shake it out. So I'll show you, here's a case. I'm going to show you a trick where I take the cards out of the box, and if it falls down, just bring it on top like so. All right. Briefly fan through the cards so they can see they're all different. Make sure to keep this section tight because that's where the loose cards are in place. Just as long as they get a rough idea they're all different. Bring the cards down, and you're going to fan force the cards from underneath. What I do is I count off 5 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that's my force card, and that's where I use my fingertips to draw it underneath, and then let all the cards ride on top as they choose a card. So they say stop wherever they want, and they're just riding above the force card. They say stop there, for example. I square up the cards, bring in the force card underneath, and then I say remember this card, and what I do, I transfer it to this half using my thumb. I gesture like this for them to remember the card, and also it proves that it's whole and intact. And then instead of closing it up, I'm actually going to reverse everything. So instead of putting this half back here, I'm transferring this card onto here, which is the sticky card, and this on top. So I've just reversed everything, okay? So now when I square up the cards, that Jack of Clubs, the force card, is above the sticky card. So I give it a bit of a pressure on top so it sticks. Put the deck inside the case. I'm going to use the blades this time, but you can use any of the methods you want to cut the deck. I push the blade like this. So I'm going to cut the deck in half, click my fingers like so, cut the deck like this. Right, okay. Take the blade out, take the deck out. And I say, for the first time, please can you tell me what your card was? They said the Jack of Clubs. I say, it's strange that, because I've cut through the entire deck. All the deck is restored, except for one card. You said Jack of Clubs, let's find it. And you look spread through and you see there's Jack of Clubs, and you separate it and you see it's been cut into 2 pieces. And there is no more Jack of Clubs, because it's actually stuck behind your top card, which in this case is the 3 of Spades. So that's a routine you can do that utilizes the cut in restored deck principle, but with a card, selected card, just for a bit of fun.
Go ahead, just say stop as I riffle through.
Stop.
Right there.
Okay.
Remember that card?
Okay.
Beautiful. And then you can put it right back. Don't forget it. Okay,
Okay.
that's the target card. Now, I'm sure you've probably seen this trick before.
Okay.
But never like this. I guarantee it, never like this. Look, check it out. We're gonna put the whole entire deck with your card inside, trapped, with literally nowhere to go. I think you may know where this is going once you see this.
And slice it in half?
So now you know what I'm talking about. We're gonna saw the lady in
God,
half.
you're not sawing
But
me.
Close up. I'm just gonna go right here. Usually it's the belly button. But right there, we're just going for the middle of the deck. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Just going through half, through every single card, including your card. Check it out. Now for the twist, I will reach inside and remove your card. What was your card?
Queen of Hearts.
There it is. Look, I'll put it back inside, close it right there, and look very carefully. I'll pull it out just like this.
Okay.
Now all I have to do is rub right here with a little bit of love, blow, because love heals all. Check it out, look. Inside now, 104 pieces, now 52.
Okay.
They're all healed.
How are they not in half? You cut them, I saw.
Back to normal, every single card. Oh my God. Oh my, because I flipped it over when I took it out. 1 second, this is actually super simple to fix. Barely an inconvenience.
What?
And there you go, you can check that out.
Oh my God, she's whole.
For this routine, you'll need your mismade card, and you'll also need a similar or matching deck. What I mean by that is you'll notice that the gimmick is made out of a maiden back, so we have a maiden back deck here, but you can just as easily use a rider back deck design. You'll also need this half card, which we'll make one right now. You just take any Queen of Hearts that's going to match your gimmick, either the gimmick or your deck of cards, and then take a pair of scissors and we're going to cut it straight down the middle. I use this little heart and that little heart as my guide, and then we use the middle dot there to know that we're going down the middle, and we continue off there. That'll give us a straight line. Now, it may not be perfectly in the middle because bicycle cards are not printed perfectly, but you will have a straight line. So once you have your half card that's all you need. So you're going to take that half card and you're going to place it on the inside of your Demi Deck with the white border facing the opening of Demi Deck. So we're placing it inside above this cloth of your Demi Deck. Now we're going to set that aside. Then we're going to use our deck of cards. Now the deck can be shuffled. Just know where your Queen of Hearts is because we will be needing it in a second. Now once you have your cards, you're going to turn the bottom 2 cards face up. You're going to go about 10, 15 cards down the deck like this, and you're going to place your gimmick. So we have 2 cards, 10, 15 cards. Our gimmick orientation doesn't matter. Rest of the deck, and then we'll put our Queen of Hearts right on top. Once again, 2 face-up cards, 10, 15 cards, our gimmicked card, the rest of the deck, and our Queen of Hearts, which is our force card. This will close and place inside of your Demi Deck. That's if you want to start with the cards here. If you want to start with the cards outside, you can do that as well. So once you're ready to begin, and you know where your blade is as well, now that you're ready to begin, all we have to do is force the top card. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to swing cut a packet to our hand, and then we're going to keep a pinky break above that card. Okay, now we're just going to riffle force the Queen of Hearts, so we just ask them to say stop. Doesn't matter where they say stop, we're going to lift up on that Queen of Hearts and hand them that card. Now we're going to keep that break exactly how we have it, with one half in one hand and the other half in the other hand. When they place the Queen of Hearts back, we're going to instantly get a pinky break right underneath that Queen of Hearts. In one motion, we're going to put the cards together. Let me move here so you can see. We're going to put the cards together, taking that Queen of Hearts on the bottom of this packet as we double undercut the bottom packet to the top. What that will do is it will place the Queen of Hearts on the bottom of the deck. It will keep our 2 face-up cards right there on the bottom as well. And then we still have our Queen of Hearts roughly in the bottom third of the deck, okay? Now at this point, you have an option. You can riffle shuffle the cards, keeping those 3 bottom cards underneath, or you can just put the cards in the Demi Deck. So we're gonna do a riffle shuffle here real quick, just so you can see it. And we wanna do it quick, so that we don't get any of the Queen, in case we get the Queen of Hearts flashing face up. We wanna do it quick so that we avoid that. Then we'll just close the cards and place them inside of the Demi Deck. Now we just perform Demi Deck exactly how we've been doing it this whole time. Take the blade, put it on top, you cut the cards in half. Now we open it up, and this is where it changes from what you've been doing. Now we're just gonna reach inside to find their card. So when we reach inside, we pull the card out and it'll be face down. You can ask them, what was your card? They'll tell you, and then you can show them that it is their card. Now you have to fix this mess that you have created, so you place the card back inside, and notice how now it's going face up. That's so that it makes sense later on in the trick that we have that mismade card. So now we're gonna close the Demi Deck, pull the blade. You already know how to do all of this. We'll take out all of the cards, but this time you just wanna make sure that all of the cards are coming out. So you want to take the cards with your fingers underneath, because we want to make sure that that Queen of Hearts comes out. Once we know that we have the Queen of Hearts and all the cards are outside of the Demi Deck box, you can just take the Demi Deck out, place it aside, and now you show that all the cards have magically restored because you just cut them in half. And as you spread, you're going to come to this Mace-Made card. That's when you act surprised. You show that it's messed up, it's mismade, but you tell them it's no problem at all. It's actually super simple to fix, barely an inconvenience. And in that line, we're just going to turn the card over like this,
hold the deck facing up. We're going to come with your other hand and grip the deck on the side of the deck that's away from you, and we're just going to rotate it as we just give the illusion that we're twisting the deck. Okay? Let me show you this move from a side angle so you can see it a little bit better. So once again, the hand comes from the top, and you're going to just twist it. Now, you can use your fingers to give it like this little sound if you want, but you're basically going to twist it and immediately continue to turn the card over. So you turn the card over twice, twist it, and immediately turn the card over. Of course, make sure that your Queen of Hearts is face up so that it looks like something magical happened. And that's pretty much it for the routine. Here you can hand out the queen for it to be examined. And as they do that, if you want, you can reset the deck. If not, you can just stay like this and reset later. Now, I do want to give credit where credit is due. I came up with that untwisting the queen move independently, and then later found out that Paul Harris uses that very move in his wonderful screwed deck routine. Highly, highly recommend it. Check it out if you haven't. So I want to thank Paul so much for his wonderful and beautiful move. To reset, it's very, very, very simple. All we're going to do is, right now we have the deck 2 cards face down, and the rest of the deck is face up. And then at the top of the deck, we have our gimmick. So all we have to do is rotate this card so that it faces your audience. And we're going to do that like so. So we're just going to do this here, and then we're going to grip the cards in almost like biddle grip or end grip. And we're going to now, in this position, here you can see I'm going to cut about 10 to 15 cards from the bottom as I slip the gimmicked card in that position. So bring everything on top. And now when you take the Queen of Hearts back and you place it on top, you're instantly reset. So if we take a look, you'll see that we have our 2 cards at the bottom, 10 or 15 cards above that, we'll have our gimmick card, and then we have our Queen of Hearts right on top. So it technically pretty much is now reset. There is one little thing you have to do before you can perform this again, and that is the card inside here will be face up. You just want to turn that face down, and you're now ready to perform this routine again.
Before we move on, I do want to mention one quick thing with this routine, and that is that you can perform it without ever having the card selected. So you never have to force the card. You could just show them the cards, put them into Demi Deck, break it in half, and then just pull half of the card, half of the queen. You could just say that you're trying to find the lady in the deck if you so desire, and that's why we're getting the queen. So the selection of the card is not really that important if you decide to do it that way. Just make sure they see it coming down face down, and then flip it face up when you put it down, when you put it back inside Demi Deck, so that when you do the reveal and you go through the cards, the card being mismade makes perfect sense. So whether you want to force the card or just get into the trick and still perform the mismade queen trick is completely up to you.
Hey Angelo, just a silly thing you can do with your Demi Deck. A card is selected. What do we get? Okay. Goes back in there. You see you're going to find the card using your card finding device that you invented. The cards go in here, as you know. You use the blade. Let me just get up. Let me go a little deeper. You know what? I'm going to just push it all the way. Hopefully, this will work. Oh, there. Was that your card by any chance? Of course, this is still a bit of a problem, but I think we have a solution. Yeah, there we go. It's finding a selected card.
Let's learn David Regal's routine. First off, thank you so much, David, for letting us use this and sharing this routine with us. Now let's get into it. So for this, you will need a duplicate card, any card at all that you want. In this case, I'm using
the 7 of diamonds, then you're going to cut one of your duplicates right in half. You're going to take your duplicate that's cut in half and we're going to place it right inside of your Demi Deck, just like this. And we're going to close it up, and you're going to start with your duplicate card that you're going to end up forcing on your spectator right on top. Then you can put everything in your Demi Deck and you're ready to go. So whenever you're ready to start performing this, all you're going to do is force the 7 of diamonds on your spectator. We've already taught you one force you can use, the riffle force. They'll take the 7 of diamonds, they can put it back. Now the cards can be shuffled in whatever way you want, because it doesn't matter. The deck goes inside of the Demi Deck. When we close it, now you just do your Demi Deck, you cut it exactly how you would. So we're gonna just put it through here, push it through, it goes right through just like that, and then you're gonna open it up like this, and so far everything has been exactly the same. This is where it changes just a little bit. You're just going to do this motion of dropping, and the cards will naturally drop out, and you're gonna have the selection coming outside of your Demi Deck like this. Now just be aware of your angles, play around with how you hold the Demi Deck in front of the mirror when you do this motion, because if you move your wrist a lot, you might actually flash the underside or the top of your Demi Deck. So just make sure that you know how it is that you're doing this movement. Notice I'm not really moving my wrist that much. I'm just going up and down, and that should keep that Demi Deck hidden. Once you have the cards and they dropped, all of the attention will be there, but now you just continue on. You close your Demi Deck, you take the blade out. Now you can show that all the cards are still in one piece. So there you go. That's the David Regal routine. Once again, thank you so much for sharing it with us. I know you guys are going to have a ton of fun performing with it.
So here is an additional moment which you can choose to add to the other 2 or 3 handlings. This is what it looks like. So I have the deck inside the case. I turn it around to show the other end, which is obviously the false end, okay? And this is where I can take the blade and I push it in like this. And it looks like I'm pushing down into the deck, but I'm not. I'm only resting as far as it can go on top of the deck, all right? So once I've done that, I can turn it around and then continue to push it all the way in. So it's kind of like you've seen both ends of the deck, and you've penetrated it and you've seen both ends of the deck. So that's an additional moment you can choose to use if you wish to. So this is the hints and tips section, so let's walk through it now. Let's talk about where to store the blade, okay? If you've got the deck of cards inside the case, like so, you can actually put the blade on the very top of the deck, like so, and the strap is quite forgiving. Just stretch it over. There's a bit of a recess there, a dimple, that's where the magnet goes, and you can store the blade in that position, like so. If you don't want to store it there, because you might think it looks a bit too preconceived that you have a blade there for some specific trick that's forthcoming, you can just add the blade into your pocket somewhere, or in your bag, or in your pocket, or in your desk, wherever you want to put it. So I can keep it there as well. So that's where you can store the blade, all right? Another thing we will talk about is the back of the cards, the force panel. It might look very flat when you purchase it. And you know, when you look at a deck of cards, you can see it's kind of rounded. And if you've got some shadow or light coming on it, depending on the angle, it looks like some parts are in shadow, okay? It's slightly 3D, which it obviously is because it's a real deck. So to make this look 3D as well, you can, if you want to, get a pencil. And what I do is, I just colour in the sides like that. I've already done it now, but I'm just going over it now just for purposes of demonstration, like so. And then using your finger, just smudge. Like so. Stop that rolling. You see that? Use my finger pulling it across. It just gives it a bit more shadow, a bit more 3D-ness, and also if your deck is a bit grey as well, you might want to give it a bit more colour and texture by spreading, you know, off-white, so to speak. So you can do that to make it look a bit more three-dimensional if you wish to, depending on how satisfied you are with your deck ends and also how new your cards are, all right? So let me share with you a couple of presentation ideas. When you ask a spectator to shuffle cards, they know what to do, they shuffle the cards. When you ask a spectator to cut the cards, they know what to do again. They pick up the half and they cut and complete the cards. So they know, the audience know, the spectators know, because they do gambling, they play card games, they know about this. So when you ask the spectator, say, you know how to cut cards, they say yes. Say, but when the magician cuts cards, he does it a different way. He cuts the cards, and that's when you go into your routine with the case. Okay, so you can do, that's one presentation angle about the magician cuts the cards this way, whereas you cut the cards your way, all right? The other presentation angle is stage illusions. You say to the spectator, you know, you've heard of Sawing a Woman in Half. It's a big stage illusion. It's very, very famous. Well, I like to bring these big illusions into small scale. And I've got something to show you with this deck of cards that's very, very similar. And then you go into the cut and restore deck. So that's two presentation angles you can choose, obviously, so you can come up with your own version as well. Now, because the Demi Deck uses a regular deck, you don't have to be doing just this effect. You can use your cards for any other routines and effects. And also the cards can be stacked, so because you're not shuffling the cards. So you can use this as your opening effect, or you can use it as your closing effect. You can have the case first, take the cards out, put the case on the table, do whatever card tricks you normally do, or you want to do in your set piece. And then to close, so I'm going to close with one more thing. You put the cards in the box, and you do your cutting routine. Or, likewise, you can use it as your opening routine. So here's a deck of cards, you do your etc. cutting sequence. They go, wow, that's quite impressive. And then you take the cards out, and now you go into your many standard card routines. So you can use it as your opening or closing effect. And also, it looks like a normal card case. So you don't have to do this move, the trick whenever you want to. You can just use it as a card case, and you're always ready to go. You carry it with you wherever you are, and you're always ready to go to do some additional effects with your standard deck, or a gaff deck. But if it's a gaff deck, whether it's a brainwave or something else, you just need to prove somehow that the cards are solid, even though they can't literally examine the cards because they're gaffed. But as long as you prove that they are solid at the end of the effect, that should be fine as well. So we've reached the end, and I want to thank you personally for purchasing this again. And I want to make sure that you practice and practice and practice. Please do it justice. Practice in front of a mirror, get your angles right. Because if you go and rush out to show your friends and you get the angles wrong, that's it. They're not going to see it again. They know how it works, and you've blown your chance. So please do it justice and practice, because it's a very strong effect. I want to thank my friends over the years to push me to get it out, because believe it or not, this effect is almost 17 years old. I came up with it in 2002. So I finally got it out. And big thanks to Murphy's Magic, because without them, it wouldn't be in your hands today. So thank you, everyone.